Tell me about the role of the internet now in modern marketing.
Yeah, I think what the web's done is it's made everybody a publisher. It's given everybody a voice. So whereas in the old days you'd market to someone, you'd like broadcast at them, today people participate because they write a blog, they comment on a piece of advertising or literature or whatever else. So I think it's kind of what the web's done is emancipate everybody, and it's made marketing much more of a collaborative process than a kind of market to or at someone.
I mean, that sounds great in theory, but in practice, of course, if I'm running my business and I want to, write a blog or put something on my website, I've still got to persuade people to go and read it and look at it, haven't I?
That's a good question. I would say it's less to do with persuading people to go and look at it. I think the two things you have to ask yourself is first, where's the value? So rather than saying, I'm going to persuade someone to come and look at it, it's more to say, why would someone want to come and look at this? What's in it for them? What do they get out of it? Where's the value for them? And then the second thing is more to say, where do people look? So I think what's unrealistic, what people get wrong sometimes, they put some good things on their own website and, then everybody's going to turn up. But of course, people don't even know it's there. So the thing is to say, where do your audience go for their advice? Do they use association websites? Do they use particular websites of magazines? Are there particular trusted forums that those people visit if they're in a manufacturing company or they're a lawyer or whatever it is? And then see if you can perhaps collaborate with those people and put some of your material there and then link back to your own site. So in other words, you make sure your interesting content is where people look rather than think, oh, I'll post it up where I want them to, and then they're all going to have to turn up to see it,
In the traditional world of marketing that most of us of a certain age, I suppose, were schooled in, it is all about advertising, direct mail, whatever form it may be, those traditional pre-internet techniques, if you like. Are you saying basically that we have to unlearn all of that stuff and relearn a whole new way of doing it?
I think in essence, the short answer would be yes. There's obviously some hangovers from the old way of marketing that still apply in terms of writing clever copy and copy that people like and will bring people in. But I think essentially the point about the old way of marketing was it was essentially based on the principle of shouting at people and kind of interrupting their day, interrupting what they were doing so they'd pay attention. I think today, because people have more choice than ever before, and probably more importantly, they have access to information, people don't want to be interrupted anymore, because as far as they're concerned, when they're ready to find something or look for something, they know it will be there in a way that pre-web it wasn't. So they were willing to be interrupted because, hey, I need to know about this or I need to see this. So I think today it's much more about shared experience, and it's much more about giving people value and getting them to come to you because they want to, rather than kind of shouting at them and hoping that you have some impact. Marketing used to be tactical. It was. So, the product development team would invent a new pen or glass or cup and saucer or whatever it was, and then marketing would be given it and say, get on with it. And they'd produce a direct mail piece or an ad campaign, and it would very much be a campaign as such. And when it finished, they'd see the results and then they might do something else. Marketing is much more strategic today. So it is an ongoing process. There is no campaign as such. It's an ongoing thing that takes place all the time. So that's the first thing I'd say about it. The second point I would make, which I think is very, very important, is that today it's not so much about the product and service that you do, it's also about the value that you give around that. So what I mean by that is the product or service that you provide, people will want at a certain point, at a certain time. There's always a context normally for a purchase to be made. But the point is, what value can you give around that people will be interested in at all times? So I'll give you an example. If you take a car, there's only certain times during a lifetime where you're interested in purchasing a car. It might be once every 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is for you. But there are perennial questions about the maintenance of a car. How do you get better fuel consumption? Looking at wear on tyres, all those kinds of different things. Some safety, if there's any safety legislation, like when the new mobile phone stuff came in and you had to have a holder in your car and you have to have a hands-free. Those types of perennial issues which are just there for any driver. And therefore you can entice people, you can add content around that kind of thing, which is interesting to anybody at any time. In other words, you engage them then. When they're ready to purchase then, you're on the radar. It doesn't mean you'll get the deal, but you'll be one of the people they go have a look at. You'll be one of the people who get an inquiry through an email or through a phone call or anything like that. So it's much more about engaging on a long-term basis than kind of short-term transactional campaigns.
And in this brave new world of internet marketing, How important is the old adage of people by people and that face-to-face sort of contact? You know, I get to meet you online, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. I think it kind of plays out in a different way. So I think people always buy people. And I think, ironically, because people don't think of the web like this in some ways, it's more important now than it's ever been, because you intimately get to know a brand in a way you never could before. So you take a huge brand like Coca-Cola. How did I interact with Coca-Cola in the old world, if you want to call it that? You know, I went into a shop and essentially bought the product from someone that was nothing to do with Coca-Cola. They're essentially a distributor, whether it was a petrol station or a newsagent or a supermarket. And obviously Coca-Cola tried to give their brand, if you like that, some sort of character, so I felt like I knew what that company was about. But these days, actually, Coca-Cola have a Facebook fan page, they have a blog, there's much more interaction with the brand, so in some ways they're much more personable than they ever were, and I can talk to real people at Coca-Cola through these forums and everything else. So I think it's much more important, and for smaller businesses, I mean, obviously I've taken a huge brand like Coca-Cola, but for smaller businesses, it's a much more intimate process, because if you're buying an experience, the people matter even more. So I think the key is to use the web to try and give a personal experience, and you can do that, and also to make it feel personal to the other person, because what we all want today, there's so much choice in the marketplace, there's always something that we feel is just right for us. You know, we no longer want Coca-Cola, we want Coca-Cola that's about us and for us, so people want things personalised a lot more, they want a lot more familiarity. So I think it's probably more important than it's ever been, even though in some ways it doesn't always feel like that because there's a screen between you.
If you could give one piece of advice to somebody starting a business now or running a small business, what would it be?
I think the biggest single piece of advice I would give to any new company just about to launch is understand the problems that you solve for a customer. Don't think, oh, I've got a good service, people will love it because I can do this for them, I can make them more efficient, or this will save them time, or this will save them money. Understand what's the actual issue that you solve, and where's the value in it for them to solve it, and is it cost effective for them to solve it? In other words, don't solve a 50p problem with a £10 solution, because actually even if it solves it, people probably won't buy it. So where's the value in it? Because I think once you understand the problem that you solve, it's much easier to then take the next stage, which is to say, where's the value around that? What else can we offer around that? And then you can really start to engage the customer.